The war has pushed prices up. They could go as high as $200 a barrel, some analysts think. How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war?
As long as it takes. So Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond Ukraine. This is a critical position for the world.
So that was the president speaking about gas prices and how we're not going to see any relief in the near future, especially as long as Putin continues to press on Ukraine. Now, some of you who have been my subscribers for a while know I've spoken on Ukraine many times, and at this point, right now, Russia has completed all of the objectives it set out to do, or at least almost all of them. They have connected Crimea to the mainland, they have taken over the Donbass area, and kicked out the Azov battalion and the rest of the Nazis who were there. And so right now, NATO pressing this issue, possibly letting Sweden and Finland to join, is really just pouring more fuel on the fire. And fuel is one thing we're short on right now. And before I let you go, I want to talk about today's newest headline, what this means for interest rates. Do we have a recession, an actual on-paper recession looming? We'll get into all that and a bunch more. But before we get way too far ahead of ourselves,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
good evening, beautiful people. Guys, what's going on? It is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, last day of the month. And unfortunately, we got some bad news today back from the Atlanta Fed. GDP now model estimates are at negative, which means we have a possible recession on paper looming. I know for a lot of you guys who are in tech right now, or you're hurting because of your position in AMC or GME, depending on when you bought in, you're probably already feeling the crunch on this, I'm sure. And I put save this date on the thumbnail because remember, these are estimates. We won't get really close to official numbers until July 28th. Then that's possibly when you could see the market react a lot stronger than maybe it did today by just getting out this preliminary report from the Atlanta Fed. And this is having its impacts globally, guys. What's going on with Biden and the administration and NATO pressing this war issue? And it's being felt in some of the worst places possible. The United States, of course, we're feeling it here, but look at what's going on in Sri Lanka right now. This article is from the BBC this week. Non-essential petrol sales halted for 2 weeks in Sri Lanka. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about the economy in Sri Lanka. There's a likelihood everything I have on right now was manufactured there. They have a huge manufacturing and industrial economy. Everything is based off that. They have almost no green energy. Everything is ICE engines. And so fuel is essential for the economy of Sri Lanka to continue to move. And right now it's getting ground to a halt. And I put most of the blame on this on the world leaders who refuse to accept the fact that Ukraine is a lost cause and should have never been fought over in the first place. So guys, just a reminder, July 28th and the few weeks leading up to that, after the Fed does its rate hike, will be really a time to pay attention to see which way the ticker is moving, how is the market responding to this news, and getting closer to that July 28th date. Moving on to the news that came in from NATO today, and how this is such not a good sign of things to come. Sweden and Finland are on the cusp of joining NATO. Here's why that matters and what comes next. So President Erdogan of Turkey has rescinded his objections to Sweden and Finland joining NATO. And now all this is going to do is poke the bear a little more. Now you are adding new countries closer to the border of Russia that she has to defend. And again, I ask you, if this was the United States, how would we react? It's just not good news for our country, for our military service. They just put the number of NATO troops in Europe on standby up to 300,000. So I don't know how Russia will respond to this news. They haven't officially been inducted yet into NATO, but it looks like it is on the horizon. So again, guys, something to keep your eye on. This is not going to help our inflation, supply chain, or globalization issues. All right, let me try to leave you with a little good news. This article from the Los Angeles Times is from today. Supreme Court rules for coal-producing states limits EPA's power to fight climate change. Now, in case you don't know, when the Obama administration came in, when the Biden administration came in, there were a bunch of new EPA regulations that were making it possible for some of the coal plants to operate. And the same we are finding is happening with the new oil and gas drilling leases. The companies are saying that the EPA's regulations are impossible to try to follow. And the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision in the case of West Virginia versus EPA in favor of the state of West Virginia today. Now, whether or not this is going to pass along to the gas and oil companies, I'm not sure yet. But starting with coal is a good way to start limiting the EPA's power. Whether we can get the Energy Secretary and the Secretary of the Interior on board with taking down some of these EP regulations is a matter for the future. I don't know if we're going to get around to that in this administration, at least. All right, so it's getting a little late. I got to start getting prepped. We're going to go live tonight at 9:30, and it's one of the last nights before 4th of July weekend, guys, so we're going to have a market close for a little bit. So whatever you want to talk about tonight, you want to talk about SCOTUS, Roe vs. Wade, you want to talk about Sweden and Finland joining Nato, you want to talk about what happened down in Uvalde, or the January 6th committee.
Both of them have said offhandedly, nobody gives a about January 6th.
Whatever it is, we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it tonight. I think I've gotten exactly halfway through on answering all the comments from last week. I know I got the last 3 videos done, and now I am heading off to do the next 2. So thank you for your patience, and sorry how late it is. If you made it this far in the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me, I know it's a pain in the ass, but it really does help the videos. As always, guys, thank you for all the likes, the views, the comments, my new subscribers, my OGs. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.